One night, he had a dream. Not an ordinary dream, not something vague or forgettable, but something completely real. He was a butterfly, flying, effortless, free. There was no confusion, no doubt, no sense of being anything else, just a butterfly, moving through the air, alive, present, complete. And in that moment, there was no memory of being human, no past, no identity, no story, just experience, pure, direct. And then he woke up, back in his body, back in his life, back in his identity. A man, a thinker, a philosopher. His name was Zhuangzi. And most people, after a dream like that, would move on, dismiss it, forget it. But he didn't, because something about it didn't sit right. Not emotionally, logically. Because the question that came to him was simple, but impossible to ignore. Was I a man dreaming I was a butterfly, or am I now a butterfly, dreaming I am a man? Think about that, not as an idea, but as a real question. Because in the dream, it felt completely real. There was no awareness that it was a dream, no signal, no indication, only experience. And now, this feels real too. You feel your body, you hear sounds, you think thoughts. But how do you know? This is not the same thing, just another layer, another experience, another dream with its own rules. Most people reject that immediately because it's uncomfortable. It removes certainty, it removes control, it challenges everything you believe is stable. But Zhuangzi didn't reject it. He followed it, because the point was not to find an answer. The point was to see the limitation of certainty, of identity, of knowing, because if your experience can feel completely real in two entirely different states, then what exactly are you trusting? The senses? They change. The body? It changes. Thoughts? Constantly changing. Identity? Built over time. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is absolute. And that realization creates something unexpected, not fear, not confusion, freedom. Because if everything is changing, then nothing needs to be held onto so tightly. Nothing needs to be defended so aggressively. Nothing needs to be controlled so desperately. Because control itself becomes questionable. What are you trying to control if everything is in flux? That is the shift. Most people build their life around certainty. This is who I am. This is what is real. This is what matters. And they protect that, defend it, fight for it. But Zhuangzi saw something else. That certainty is constructed, and anything constructed can dissolve. So instead of clinging to identity, he loosened it. Instead of trying to define reality, he allowed it to change, to move, to exist without needing to be fixed. That is not weakness. That is flexibility. And flexibility is where resilience comes from. Because when you are not rigid, you do not break. You adapt. You flow. You respond. Instead of resisting. That is the Taoist way. Not forcing, not controlling, but aligning. And once you see that, life becomes lighter. Not because problems disappear, but because your relationship to them changes. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start seeing, this is happening. Now what? Without attachment, without resistance, just awareness and action. Zhuangzi didn't give answers, he gave perspective. A way to look at reality that removes the illusion of control and replaces it with something more useful, clarity. Because once you see that your identity is not fixed, your experience is not absolute, your certainty is not guaranteed, you become open, open to change, open to possibility, open to reality as it is, not as you want it to be. And that is where peace begins, not in control, but in understanding, because in the end, The question is not what is real. It is, what am I within whatever this is? And once you stop trying to answer that with words and start observing it directly, something shifts, not outside, but inside. And that shift is what changes everything.